Today, I'm going to show you how to take fresh tomatoes and turn them into an amazing marinara sauce. Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Tami, the creator of the blog and this YouTube channel called Nutmeg Notebook. And this is where I share with you all about my whole food, plant-based lifestyle. So today I'm super excited to share with you a very simple recipe for making a classic marinara sauce with fresh tomatoes. So these are from my garden, but don't worry, if you don't grow your own tomatoes, you can still get wonderful tomatoes at your farmer's market. So one year before we started growing our own tomatoes, we went to the farmer's market and I just got into a conversation with one of the vendors who was selling tomatoes, and I asked her which of these tomatoes would be best for making marinara. And she said, oh, if you want to make marinara, she says, I can sell you a 25-pound box of not so pretty tomatoes for $5, but they would be perfect for marinara. And they were just the ugly tomatoes that if they sat them out on the table, people wouldn't have wanted to purchase them. And so I bought them and made the most amazing marinara. You don't have to can it. You can simply freeze it, and I'll even show you how I freeze it. And it is fantastic. So let's get started. I have 5 pounds of tomatoes here because that is what will fit into my pan that I'm going to be using to saute them. So the first thing we have to do, of course, is wash them, which I did. I gave these a really nice rinse with cold water in my sink, and now I'm just going to cut them. So if you have the smaller tomatoes, you can leave these whole if you want, but they do cook down quicker if you at least cut them in half, which I'm going to do. Now, we have a variety of different kinds of tomatoes that we're growing, and here's the thing. You want to make sure that you're using really sweet tomatoes because that is what's going to give this a delicious flavor. It's all about the tomatoes. Now, I do have a recipe for making a classic marinara where you used canned tomatoes, and it's delicious, but you do have to add quite a few things to it to make it extra special. So I'm just going to cut out that little bit of a core here on the larger tomato, and I'm just going to cut this into chunks, and it will cook down. Seeds, skin, everything is going to go in because it all adds flavor and nutrition. And the little ones I just cut in half, and that seems to be perfect. So you just want to make sure, taste the tomatoes before you make the sauce, and make sure that they are really sweet and delicious. If they're not, your sauce isn't going to be sweet and delicious. So I learned how to make this from Miyoko Shinner, who is a wonderful vegan chef, and you probably know of Miyoko's cheeses because she has a cheese company now. And I learned this method from her, from one of her cookbooks, and it works fabulous. So it's really more of a method than it is a recipe. Okay, the tomatoes are all cut. I'm just going to add the last ones to the bowl, and we want to capture all those juices because all of those juices are going to add a lot of flavor. Okay, so the tomatoes are all cut. The only thing I have left really to do is to chop the garlic, and I like to use this Tupperware little pole chopper. It works great. Chef AJ gave this to me a few years ago, and I love it. It's so much easier to clean than a garlic press. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are little tiny cloves there. So I'll take about 3 of them. About a dozen of garlic cloves here. This was one of those little packets. So Trader Joe's and Whole Foods sell garlic that's already peeled, and it comes in a little packet. This was one whole little packet. So you can do more or less. It just depends on how much of a garlic lover you are. And what I love about this is you just pull it. Easy peasy, fantastic. garlic here. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the stove. I'm going to preheat my scan pan and get it warmed up, and then we'll start with the garlic. So before we head over to the stove, I just want to prep the fresh basil. Now you can use either fresh basil or fresh rosemary in the marinara. It's really all it needs. I have even made it though with just some dried Italian or Italian seasoning, just a dried mix. And that will work too if you don't have fresh, so don't worry about it. And I'm going to do the basil because the basil is actually my favorite. So this is just some fresh basil. I'm just going to pick it off the stem here and put it in. This is a Holland bowl. This is a 12-inch bowl that I can use for chopping herbs. It works beautifully with a very sharp mezzaluna knife and just makes quick work of prepping some fresh herbs for us. These are fantastic in salads too. If you haven't put fresh herbs in your salads, try it. It adds so much flavor. It's just amazing. So this is super, super fast and easy. And you guys who know me know that I believe in working smarter, not harder in the kitchen. And another thing I wanted to say, you probably noticed me when I was doing the tomatoes that I was throwing stuff down here. They're not going on the floor. I actually keep a wastebasket down beside me while I'm prepping because that keeps me from having to run over under the sink where I keep it. So this is just a mezzaluna knife, and I have the herbs in here, and I'm just going to chop them up. Give them a light chopping. Oh, it smells so good, you guys. I wish you could smell this. The aroma is amazing. Okay, now I'm going to head over to the stove and get started on the marinara. Okay, I have my pan preheating. This is a scan pan, S-C-A-N-P-A-N, scan pan, and it's a ceramic non-stick coating on it, and it works great. And we do oil-free cooking, so this is perfect for that. So to test it, I'm just adding a little droplets of water, and they're bubbling up, which means my pan is hot and ready to go. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of water, a tablespoon or so, and I'm going to add in that garlic. And I'm just doing that because I don't want that garlic to burn. I just want to heat it up a little bit, just get it started, just take a little bit of the raw out of it. And you can, adjust the garlic up or down depending on how much you love it, or don't. So just have that going in there. Set that aside, get my bigger spatula. I'm going to add just a little more water. It smells really, really good. Love fresh garlic. That adds so much flavor. And you have to be careful with garlic because you don't want it to burn. And I'm going to go ahead and add my tomatoes now. Just give this, it's about 30 to 60 seconds or so, just enough to get it started. Okay, let's get these tomatoes going in there. I'm going to give it a nice stir because I want to get that garlic moved around. There's plenty of juices from the tomatoes on the bottom, so nothing's going to burn. And what I want to do is I want to get this really going and cooking. I have it on about a medium heat here. And once everything starts really cooking down, I will come along and stir it every once in a while and press the back of my spatula against the tomatoes because I want them to release all those wonderful sweet juices that they have, because that is going to make this marinara sauce incredible. And as you can see, it has been cooking and bubbling away, and the tomatoes are starting to break down. And I want to talk to you about my pan selection here, why I chose to use my scan pan. It is a 5.5 quart skillet, and I'm trying to maximize the heat surface area for cooking, because this is going to help my marinara sauce cook more quickly. The deeper, more narrow of a bottom of pan that I would use would just cause it to take longer. And as you can see, the scan pan, because it's multi-layers of materials, it distributes the heat evenly across the bottom of the pan. So the center is cooking just as much as the edges are cooking. So I'm getting even cooking across the pan. So that's why you want to get the largest around pan that you have, so that it won't take as long to cook. Now, if you only have like a Dutch oven or a smaller pot, don't worry, you can still make this. It's just going to take a little bit longer. And as you know, I like to work smarter, not harder in the kitchen. And so that's why I'm choosing to use a more shallow pan that is bigger around. And so it's cooking really nicely. The tomatoes are starting to break down. You can see I have a lot more juices going, and I'm just gonna use the back of my spatula to push down against the tomatoes, just help them release their juices and help them break up a bit. So I'm probably going to let this simmer for probably a total of about 40 minutes. And but you know, everything is going to vary depending on your pan, how many tomatoes you have in the pot, and the amount of heat that you have under it. I have mine on like a medium setting, but I have a very high output burner that it's on my gas cooktop. So we're just gonna keep an eye on it, watch it, and see how it goes. But you can see how easy this is to make. There's not a lot to it. But the results are incredible. So I'm going to give this another 10 minutes and come back and check it and see how it is then. Okay, guys, 10 more minutes has passed, so it has been simmering now for a total of 20 minutes. So you can see what it looks like. I just wanted to show you that you can use a potato masher in here if you feel like it just needs a little help to get those tomatoes to release their juice. Mine's doing pretty good. Don't worry that the skins are in there. It still makes a fabulous tomato sauce. Of course, if you don't want it to be lumpy, you can use an immersion blender and blend it, or you could put it in your stand-up blender and make it completely smooth if you want to do that. But we kind of like it to be like this, kind of rustic, and it's just amazing. It's really amazing. So it's been 40 minutes altogether, so 20 minutes since we last checked on it, and it looks really great. I also wanted to comment that if you use salt, you could add a half a teaspoon of salt to this. We just follow a low sodium diet, so I don't add any salt to it, but if you are using salt, you can also add a little bit of salt to this as well. So it's actually looking really good, and so I'm going to now add my fresh basil. And this is that basil that I chopped using the Mezzaluna knife. This is a Hollandwood bowl. I'll link to it down below. I use a bigger version of this to chop salads. I eat a chopped salad every day, and I chop my salads the same way that I chopped the basil, and it just works great. So let's add that fresh basil in here. Ooh, such a beautiful green color. I'm just going to stir it in a little bit here. I wish you guys could smell it. The aroma is absolutely amazing. And when this cools down, I'm just going to let it cool down, and then I'm going to put it in my super cubes, and I'll show you. We made a batch a few days ago, and we put it in our super cubes. It's how we freeze it, and so I'll show you that how we go about freezing it. So For a written recipe, I will do the instructions and write up a recipe, and I'll have a companion blog post for you to go to, so that if you want to print that off and put it in a binder, you can do that. And I'll link to that in the show notes as well. So I have that marinara off the stove, and I have my super cubes here, and these are perfect for batch cooking. And I just want to show you, I just use a ladle and I put it in the super cubes. So these are silicone freezer trays, and they have a 2-cup capacity. Super easy. Now, we did make some marinara a couple days ago, and we froze it in the super cubes. So I'm going to grab those that are already frozen out of the freezer and show you how they turn out. Okay, one of the things I really love about this marinara recipe is that it's so easy for storage. So if you're not going to be using it all right away, like we have a lot of tomatoes, so we're going to be making a lot of marinara. It freezes beautifully, and this is how I like to freeze it. We made some a few days ago, so we put it in our super cubes. These are 2-cup silicone trays that are for batch cooking and freezing. And so they have a measurement in them for 2 cups. There's also lines for 1 cup. If you just want to freeze them in 1-cup portions, you could do that as well, and pop them in the freezer. I like to let them freeze overnight, and then they get nice and rock solid hard in my freezer. And they are the silicone trays have a little metal ledge on them, so it makes them have good stability when you go to move them from the counter to the freezer, which I really love. You can also bake in these, which is really nice. So I have a whole video all about super cubes and how I use them. So just let them sit out for maybe about 5 minutes or so, and then that allows them to release quite easily. And 4 of these will actually fit in a gallon size freezer bag. So I love that Super Cubes thought of, well, what are they going to do with the cubes after they've frozen them? So 4 of them will fit in here. So we used 5 pounds of tomatoes to make this batch, and that gave us 6 cups of sauce. So you see here how 2 of them fit beautifully down in there. And then I have 1 more. You get lids with these. Each Super Cubes comes with a lid. They can go in the dishwasher as well. They work beautifully, and we batch cook every week, and these have just simplified everything for us and also allowed us to have incredible freezer space, because we don't have a bunch of containers with our batch prepped food in there. And then you just seal it across the top, and I will link to everything that I've shown you today, all the products that I've used. I'll link to our Amazon store for you, and we have a direct link also with the company for Super Cubes. And then I have plastic upright containers that I use in the freezer. I just label my bags, and then these pop down in my freezer containers to keep everything organized. So I have 1 for sauces, 1 for soups, 1 for grains, 1 for like taco lentils, and that type of thing. So I just write the name of what's inside of it and the month and the year, and then we're good to go. It just makes freezing everything so simple. And then the nice thing about it is we can take out as much as we want. So if just one of us is going to have some pasta or zucchini noodles with marinara, we can just pull out 1 cube. If we both want it, we can pull out 2. If the whole family's coming over, then we can pull out multiple of them and just let them thaw out and then heat them up. And it just makes it really easy to have incredible homemade marinara whenever we want it. So there you go. That's how super easy it is to make your own marinara sauce from fresh tomatoes. So I hope that you guys will give this a try. Now, to serve it up, you can put it over your favorite pasta. If you're gluten-free like I am, a gluten-free pasta is great, or I love to make zucchini noodles with a spiralizer. That's super quick and easy. It only takes like 5 minutes to use the spiralizer and to make your own noodles. It's great that way. You can take a baked potato and smother a baked potato with some steamed broccoli and then the homemade marinara sauce. It will be a wonderful, nutritious way to enjoy the marinara. Maybe put a little bit of the faux Parmesan over the top. I'll link to my recipe for that down in the show notes as well. And be sure to go over to the blog and print the recipe. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell next to the subscribe tab so that you will get notifications whenever we do a new video. I'm Tami, and I help you get healthy and stay healthy, one meal at a time. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.